So this is the first episode of Two Worlds Collide, where two of our worlds collide in opinions and stuff like that. So we're going to be starting this series with our favorite movies of all time. We're doing a top 12, because why the fuck not?
First off, we're not going to really put in anything that's like too modern, like Mad Max Fury Road, even though I'm hoping in 5 years' time we could put that on there, because I think it does belong on there. Because here's the thing, I remember a long time ago just compiling a list for my own pleasure, and you know what was on the top of that list? Fucking Transformers!
I remember, dude, we came out of that movie, we thought it was the best thing ever. Same with Avatar.
No, like,
everyone thought Avatar was so good.
Yeah, until I saw it.
Aged terrible.
Yeah, until I saw it, you know, on DVD 2 other times, and I had to quit through the middle of it because I just wanted to fall asleep.
And you know what? A lot of these movies on this list have actually aged really well for us. I mean, fuck, my favorite movie on the list, my personal favorite, is a movie that I thought was just okay the first time I saw it. Now I absolutely love it. Most of these movies have like aged really well over time. Of course, a lot of you guys are gonna be like, you know, where the fuck is 2001: A Space Odyssey, Citizen Kane, and all these other movies? Well, there's multiple things that could have happened. One of them, we didn't like the movie. One of them, we haven't seen the movie, which is probably unlikely. Or we just don't think it was as good to be on the list, you know. And we will actually dedicate a video after this. Me and him will do a live stream where we talk about movies that didn't make it on the list and the reasons why they didn't make it on the list. Now, there's one last thing we want to mention before we get in the video, and that this list that we made, top 12, is compiled of our favorite movies of all time in a certain order. Like, our personal favorite movies are like, 4 and 3 on the list, right? And then we just kind of came to a consensus on a lot of the other movies on the list. So overall, these would all pretty much make a top 10 list for either of us, and we just put it in a different order. Now let's get to number 12 on the list, probably the oddest choice.
You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to an attorney. Anything you say may be used against you. You better back up, pal! Your move, creep.
The future of law enforcement.
So Robocop, a lot of you are like, what the fuck? Goddamn Robocop? You probably either A, not seen the movie, or haven't watched the movie in a while, because this movie has aged amazingly. The best 80s action movie by far. You know, Terminator's great. In fact, spoiler, Terminator's not on the list. It could have been, but I think this beats it out for many reasons. It has all the great 80s action movie tropes that, say, Terminator gets, right? But this executes satire, drama, and action all very incredibly.
Yeah, a lot of people, they think that it's just some dumb 80s action movie with no rhyme or reason. Like, no, it's satire. This is like pure satire. There is a point.
It transitions perfectly from all these crazy themes and tones that would not work on like any other movie, and it feels flawless. The pacing of the movie feels great too, and it goes from fucking crazy hilarious all of a sudden to like really like you could get invested into the story of it. And because it's Detroit, because it's kind of in the feature, because it's gritty, because it's almost comic booky, it feels right. And even like the idea of Robocop, something that's really cheesy and bizarre, comes off really well, especially with the character development where they basically turn this man into a robot. And with such a crazy idea as this, they execute it in all the right ways. It's almost like they handed a stupid just joke idea to the best writer and director they could, and they made an incredible movie out of it.
And what's even crazier is that apparently he's supposed to be Jesus. Like, no, go look it up. It's basically, like, Paul Verhoeven basically made it like an allegory of Jesus. Like they're building him back, which means like he's like, or they killed him, so he's like crucified, and then they build him back, so he's resurrected.
Clarence Bodiger, one of my favorite movie villains ever, played by the same guy that's Red in Sat 70 Show. He walks into the house of the guy that built RoboCop, and he's just like, bitches leave, to the, you know, girls that are there partying with him.
Bitches leave.
Gee, Bobby. Bye. You gonna call me?
My favorite scene is when Murphy and his partner is chasing Bodiger, and he's gonna throw that guy out of the truck.
Can you fly, Bobby?
Clarence, no! Hit it!
came to Shawshank Prison in 1947.
Why'd you do it?
I didn't, since you asked.
You can sit right here. I must admit, I didn't think much of Andy first time I laid eyes on him. He had a quiet way about him. A walk and a talk that just wasn't normal around here.
There are places in the world that aren't made out of stone. There's something inside they can't touch.
What are you talking about?
Hope.
So number 11, we have The Shawshank Redemption. Arguably, a lot of people would say that this needs to be way higher. And it used to be my second favorite movie at one point, but it's gone down quite a bit because it's just kind of so long, and some of the parts in the movie are really, really drawn out.
Okay, so this guy gets falsely accused of murdering his wife, and he goes to prison, and he kind of, I guess, manipulates his way into safety,
Yeah,
or like to
pretty
protect himself.
This movie also explores the idea of like people staying in prison for so long that they're so used to that lifestyle that they can't get used to the outside world. And it really feels like it draws you into that feel too, because the movie starts really dark and depressing. Like, fuck, dude, I wouldn't want to be there. Everyone hates me. It's a terrible place. All the guards are douchebags. All the people there are douchebags. But the more that he makes friends with people, the more that he works his way to the top, and the longer that he's there, you start to feel that the movie's tone shifts like to happier. And it's almost like, wow, yeah, prison's not that bad. There's a lot of interesting characters in this movie, especially Red, who is actually kind of my favorite character in the movie. Is he your favorite as well? Or I've got this feeling you like the Mr. Krabs prison guard.
Yeah.
That's a fucking douchebag.
There was a scene where Andy plays some classical music on the intercom to give all the other inmates a taste of freedom.
I tell you, those voices soared. Higher and farther than anybody in a great place dares to dream. It was like some beautiful bird flapped into our drab little cage and made those walls dissolve away. And for the briefest of moments, every last man at Shawshank felt free.
You know, you start to feel like he's getting too comfortable there, and they start to like even talk about like, is Andy mentally stuck here? But then you learn at the end of the movie he really wants to get out, and he's really fighting for it.
You'll see. I'll show you. You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Number 10, The Dark Knight. You know, it's not simply just a Batman movie, but it's like a crime thriller, but it has a lot of stuff to say about, I guess, society in general.
Especially like crime and insanity, which is explored a lot with the Joker. I mean, fuck. The guy playing the Joker died giving that fucking performance of insanity. There's a lot of really great moments in the movie, and the Joker, like the rest of the movie's good. The crime, mafia stuff's pretty interesting that the Batman gets into, and it feels like just kind of an ordinary Batman movie otherwise, but the Joker's performance takes this movie to a whole other level.
Yeah, there's a great scene where the mafia guys, they give the Joker a bunch of money and he burns his half.
It's not about money. It's about sending a message. Everything burns.
He's trying to get the Batman to break his one rule, and the Joker's there to prove even Gotham's purest people are just as bad as he is. The buildup of fear of the populace of Gotham is really felt as the movie goes on, because the Joker just meticulously plans everything so well. I especially love the two boat scene where he rigs two boats to explode and gives the detonators to each other boat, one of them having a bunch of criminals, the other one having a bunch of harmless people on it, and they have to pick who's gonna blow up the other boat.
It's just a social experiment, bro.
Man, I remember seeing this in theaters, and right from the start of it, it just throws you right into it during like a bank heist. And in that heist, it introduces the Joker perfectly as just being fucking absolutely crazy, hanging with a crowd of people that are just in it for the money and success of doing crime. He's just there to have fun. My favorite scene is when the Joker first meets with the mafia guys.
I'm gonna make this pencil disappear. It's gone.
The only really weak thing of this movie is the ending's a little confusing. we're not going to talk too much about because it's kind of spoilery, but some people argue that, we're not going to kind of spoil the big spoiler, but basically Batman is chased by the police at the very end of the movie. Like, they think he's the new bad guy, so they chase him and all that good shit. The people of Gotham are after him. So some people say, why don't they just say that the atrocities that Batman is taking credit for, just say the Joker did. But I say, like, wouldn't the Joker just say, no, they're full of shit, you know, here's evidence.
Jesus, I mean, you guys do nothing but complain about how you can't stand it in this place here, and then you haven't got the guts just to walk out? I mean, what do you think you are, for Christ's sake, crazy or something? Well, you're not.
Hey, wait a minute! Hold it! See how easy it is?
Number 9, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, starring Jack Nicholson.
It's one of those movies where it's like such a dull concept about just a mental ward and a bunch of weird people. Jack Nicholson is thrown into the equation, a person that's sent to a mental institution for crimes he did, but he said that he was crazy to get out of going to prison. And there's a lot of great comedy throughout it. Then you realize later in the movie that it starts to divulge a lot of dark secrets about like mental institutes of the time, like shock therapy and lobotomy. And then the characters are really what make this movie shine, especially McMurphy, who is Jack Nicholson. He is obviously the best character. He's not crazy, but his actions are so crazy. And then you have some good characters like Christopher Lloyd's Tabor, who you can tell he's got some problems, but he's still pretty damn funny.
Oh, and it's also a very early appearance by Danny DeVito.
Yeah, as Mr. Martini. It hints a lot that Harding, who's there on his own accord, and a lot of people you realize are there because they want to be there. He's there because he's gay. Because people at the time thought that if you're gay, you have mental problems. And the more that McMurphy's around them, the more that they kind of want to break out of their chains, and especially at this great scene where they're all freaking out that like, Nurse Ratched, who's like the nurse of the ward, is like kind of treating them like children.
The Nurse Ratched, she's basically not letting them watch the World Series, and McMurphy, the main character, he gets kind of pissed off about it, so he's looking at like a blank TV, and he kind of just starts color commentating, and it gets like louder and louder and more boisterous.
Somebody give me a fucking wiener before I die. Koufax looks down. He's looking at the great Mickey Mantle now. Here comes the pitch. Mantle swings. It's a fucking home run.
Gentlemen, stop this. Stop this immediately.
Gentlemen, welcome to Fight Club.
Motherfucker.
First rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
You hit me in the ear.
Second rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
That was perfect.
Third rule of Fight Club, someone yells stop, pulls his limp, taps out, fight is over. Fourth rule, only two guys to a fight. Fifth rule, one fight at a time, fellas. Sixth rule, no shirts, no shoes. Seventh rule, fights will go on as long as they have to. And the eighth and final rule, this is your first night at Fight Club. You have to fight.
Right, number 8, Fight Club.
A lot of you are probably, you've never seen or heard of this movie as much. You're gonna think it's just a fight movie, right?
No,
Yeah,
no, it's not.
It's probably one of the most small premises of the movie. It's more a psychological, weird drama.
Political, almost like satire / political commentary.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. And the editing, directing.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's really like
David
chaotic.
Fincher's best film.
Yeah, I easily. It still feels incredibly fresh. And there's a lot of movies that kind of try to go for weird premises like this because it does have such a really deep premise. And if we told you what the premise was behind Fight Club, we would almost spoil the movie. But it focuses on themes that we can talk about. Not wanting to run with a bad crowd, the wildness in yourself, getting out your anger in Fight Club, and that's what the idea of Fight Club is about, is getting out all the insecurities in your life and you just fuck it, go for it.
Well, it's not just also on the political side. A lot of it has to do with, it's kind of an anti-consumerist movie. The big premise is, don't just follow any old son of a bitch, even if you agree with them. Don't become a slave. Like, don't try to free yourself from one thing, only to become a slave to something else.
What's the female's name in the movie?
Marla.
Yeah, Marla. She is my favorite line in the movie because she's just like this one bitch that's just really crazy and like tries to kill herself and stuff. And then she says this one line while she's like fucking Brad Pitt. And it's one of the funniest things I've ever heard.
My God. I haven't been fucked like that since grade school.
The funny thing is that the original line was going to be, I want to have your abortion. But they thought that that was too much. They decided to go with this, which is in some ways arguably much worse.
A planet where man is the lowest order of living things, and the superior beings are apes. They build the cities, make the laws, the gods, and control the guns that hunt a race of lowly, terrified humans who run wild in the jungle.
Alright, number 7, Planet of the Apes. Basically, it's about this crew. They're on like some kind of like, they're astronauts, or like they're on some kind of mission. Their trajectory changes and they crash land on this planet of apes that are intelligent and have guns and technology, and where humans are basically mere animals.
Now, I think that it hints that they actually made the humans dumb by experimentation or something like that, like cut out brains and stuff like that. I know they did it to one of Taylor, who's played by Charlton Heston. They did it to one of his crew members. That pissed them off. The apes actually have racist ideas of like humans and stuff like that, and you could argue that the entire Planet of the Apes movie series of the original ones is an allegory of racism, especially the later movies where it's really hitting you on the goddamn head with like slavery and the N-word and stuff like that. But this movie, it still touches on that, just segregation in general. They treat Taylor like shit because, you know, he's a human, and then they realize he can talk. It's seen as a danger, and it also has a lot of great themes about religion versus science, because the scientist apes in the movie that get behind Taylor, they're like, he is a scientific discovery. He can prove new theories. And the orangutans, who are like the scientific and religious and political leaders, are like, no, he's too dangerous. He goes against our religion and blah, blah, blah. And you meet this one orangutan named Dr. Zaius, which is, I think, probably the most interesting character of the movie. He's a scientist that's learned the truth, but he keeps it under wraps to keep society going. I love this one scene, speaking about the science versus religion. They actually have a trial for Taylor on whether they should believe him or whatever, or like let them...
Whether he has rights, I think.
Yeah, and they want to explore this land called the Forbidden Zone as well, because, you know, the lawgiver, they're basically Jesus' character, always said that you can't enter the Forbidden Zone, and they believe for religious reasons, all that stuff. But they're having the trial of Taylor. Maybe Taylor didn't come from space. Maybe he sprang up from our own planet. Maybe that there was a more advanced human civilization of humans, not apes, or even more advanced apes before us, and we're actually declined from what was once on this planet. And you can just see the orangutans just plugging their ears like they
covering
can't...
their eyes, covering their mouths. Yeah, basically as a reference to that whole like see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil.
And Taylor, at the end of the movie, finds one of the best plot twists of movie history.
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
Number 6, I have Clockwork Orange. It's got Really great character development. It's really, really edgy and different for the time. It's got lots of horrible visuals of violence, rape, death. Alex is such a great character. And throughout the movie, it explores some really, really deep ideas and even political ideas.
Like, one of the big ideas is that it kind of touches on free will and the idea of whether you can cure someone of being evil, and if you can cure them of being evil by, I guess, reconditioning their brain, have they really become good because they can't because they've now lost the ability to choose?
Yeah,
and that's not real reform of their actual character.
Well, the movie is about Alex, who's obviously a psychopath. It's shown throughout the movie. Isn't there like a scene where he jacks off to like fucking images of death and destruction and shit while listening
or at least it's implied that's what he's doing.
Yeah, and like while listening to Ludwig van Beethoven. And I find it weird how he calls him Ludwig van instead of just Beethoven.
Ludwig van. Because they speak weird because it's kind of like near future setting. I mean, again, going back to the communist thing, the whole Droog dialect thing. A lot of that is based in Russian words.
Yeah, so like they actually changed a lot of the wording in the movie, I think based off the book, to be like a fusion of English and Russian, which is really weird. So it implied that they're in maybe like a communist regime. I mean, right from the beginning of the movie, you can hear, especially from like the poor person that they beat up, there's crime everywhere. There's just like groups of people that are just going around beating up people and raping them, what's called ultra-violence, and that's what Alex is part of. He's part of a group of droogs, his asshole buddies that just go around, cause mayhem, and get a high from it. Alex especially, he's the leader of the group, who has absolutely no emotion. He's just an evil piece of shit.
He's a total psychopath, basically.
There's this great scene in the movie where his other droogs start to get kind of like, we don't know about this guy, he's kind of fucked up. They're like, dude, we gotta kind of tone it down. We're getting a little out of hand. And he like sees that as a threat, so as they're walking down the street, he starts kicking their ass in slow motion. That's really cool. Probably the best scene in the movie. So he gets arrested, and there's this new like treatment for inmates and stuff to make them not evil. What they do is they show them on like the TV like visuals of like, say, Nazis marching, the Holocaust, as you're about to say, rape, killing, fighting, stuff like that. But they would inject him with stuff that would make him feel really sick or have a lot of pain. So they throw him back in the world, and it kind of fucks him up because all of his past evil deeds that he does in the first parts of the movie start to haunt him back. The ending of the movie is really incredible, though. It has one of the most classic movie ending lines of, "Oh, I was cured, all right." We can't really explain too much what that means. You'll have to see the movie. But it's a great ironic line, though. Overall, an incredible movie. Stanley Kubrick is one of the best directors ever. He's such a great, unique style. Malcolm McDowell is such a great narrator. So number 5, we have an interesting movie. A movie that, like I said, was panned by critics when it came out. I saw the theatrical cut on like Netflix, and I thought it was not as great. But man, right here, you have to get the final cut if you want the real version of Blade Runner.
There's really, really beautiful visuals, really beautiful special effects and cinematography, and of course, the music is amazing. This has probably one of the best soundtracks of any movie ever.
So the concept of this movie is really interesting because it builds the world. It's a futuristic and post-apocalyptic movie where it was after nuclear war. Most people are trying to get off-world, and it's kind of like a shitty society. And animals are dead and stuff like that. And so far in the future, they're on other planets and trying to explore other places. And there's also androids. made by the Tyrell Corporation. Now, a bunch of androids have started to become self-aware and started to fight back against their human captors, fighting for freedom. And that's what some of the biggest themes in this movie are, is what does it mean to be a human? So they have these people called Blade Runners, which Deckard, our main character played by Harrison Ford, has to hunt down replicants, androids, whatever you want to call them, that return to Earth. The characters are really, really interesting in this one. Especially Deckard, who just kind of feels like he's sick of this shit. He feels like a cop is just like, I'm done. It feels like classic noir. And easily the best noir film ever made. And by the end of this, he's just absolutely done with his job. He's having to kill people that he used to regard as just like, they're just tin cans, they're useless. But this movie explores, especially with the character Roy Batty, you start to realize, and set up as the villain, maybe he's the hero at the end of the movie, and they have all this weird symbolism with him where he's acting probably more human than Deckard is, and at the end of it, he is just afraid to die. He just wants to live long because he's had all these cool experiences in his 5-year lifespan, and he just wants to live, or at least tell other people what he's seen.
Yeah, there's this scene where he's hunting Zora, one of the replicants, and she has to run through all these like department store glass or like walls of glass, something like that. It's in slow motion. It's beautiful. The music is perfect.
Roy Batty is probably, in my opinion, I don't know if you'd agree with this, the best movie villain ever. You sympathize with him at the end. It's almost like he's the good guy. He's becoming human. As Roy becomes more human, he's breaking Deckard down to his level and being like, you hunt our people down. This is what it's like to be like one of our androids. You're a fucking slave. We just want to be like you, a human.
That's the spirit!
This is the end, beautiful friend. This is the end, my only friend. The end of our elaborate plans. The end of everything that stands. The end, no safety or surprise. The end, I'll never look into your eyes.
Now, number 4, Apocalypse Now, is my favorite movie of all time. Second favorite personal is probably Blade Runner. Now, I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, this is good, nothing that special. But there's a lot of symbolism, there's a lot of great imagery, especially like visual storytelling, which is insane. Because this movie was a total mess to make. It was set up for failure. It was way over budget. Way overdue. Marlon Brando showed up fat and unprepared. Their sets kept getting destroyed by typhoons and all this stuff, and they had just hours and hours and days worth of footage they had to edit down into something watchable. By God, they edited it down to a masterpiece. Now the movie, just overall synopsis, is just about a guy that's obviously suffering from like trauma in Vietnam, is thrown back into the jungle during the Vietnam War to hunt down a rogue colonel that is hiding in Cambodia with like a ritualistic army, and you get to learn more and more about him throughout the movie as he's going on his mission. And he kind of starts to sympathize with the colonel and why he's doing what he does. And it really explores why the Vietnam War failed and the darkness of human nature. Now, Willard, our main character played by Martin Sheen, is going on a trip down the river to Cambodia on this boat with a great crew of interesting characters.
Lawrence Fishburne is in the movie, and he was actually underage for the role.
They make a lot of interesting stops that kind of show the further they get down the river, the further they get down to darkness, the further they get down to what the true evil nature of the Vietnam War was. Insanity ensues the further they get down the river. The first stop being, of course, the awesome air cavalry division that they meet up with Robert Duvall, who's this crazy colonel that leads this air cav division that goes on to do one of the most iconic movie scenes ever, where they go to a Viet Cong beach, blow the absolute fuck out of it. Then they get to this other stop where they kind of see like the lust of soldiers, where they watch Playboy bunnies of like that year or whatever do like some dances for the soldiers and shit. Then they get to this place called the Dolong Bridge that has just absolute insanity. Everyone's trying to get the fuck out of there, run away, and the people that are still there, especially that guy Roach, he's just like, he seems like he has no soul left. And it starts to get really symbolic of like descending into hell, especially with like the burning cross visuals, the burning building visuals, destroyed vehicles all around them. They even have tribals throwing spears at them. It's really, really thrilling movie. It's not necessarily a movie that's like absolutely jam-packed with action. It's about the atmosphere and like symbolism of the movie. Now when they get to Kurtz, there's a lot of interesting stuff that happens, and there's a lot of really deep storytelling at that point, which we won't get into too much. There's two really incredible characters in the movie that are side characters. At the first stop, you have, like I said, Kilgore, the leader of the Air Cab division, who's absolutely hilarious. He's obsessed with surfing, and he's obsessed with bringing like a piece of home to Vietnam.
Smells like victory. Someday this war's gonna end.
His favorite character in the movie is you meet at the last stop, you know, Colonel Kurtz's compound, this American photojournalist.
That's actually his name in the credits. It's just the American photojournalist.
I'm an American!
But he adds like a little bit of comic relief, but also adds a little bit more like why people follow him, because he's like the relatable character in this household.
He's kind of like, he gives a taste of the Colonel before they actually meet him.
Yeah, but he's like gives a relatable taste. Like, you know, he's not evil, man. He's poetic. He has a reason why he's doing what he's doing. He has these people that are foreign land that don't even know him, following him and doing and worshiping him for everything he does and says.
And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee.
My personal favorite movie of all time, number 3, Pulp Fiction. Directed by Quentin Tarantino, I believe. His second film.
It is?
Yeah.
God damn.
You see, I think the thing that was really unique about this it has a very non-linear form of storytelling. There's actually kind of 3 sort of storylines in this movie, but they're told out of order and they're all kind of interlinked. Dialogue is amazing.
I mean, even from like the first story, in my opinion, is the weakest story. Mrs. Wallace or whatever.
Yeah.
She's just talking about how she used to be on like a TV show that was like really campy, and even that's really interesting to hear about. And they go to some like weird 50s diner, which is pretty fun.
Jackrabbit Slim.
There's a lot of really weird stuff that happens in the movie, and this is probably the hardest movie for us to even explain what it's about because it's all chopped up. But basically, it's just about a bunch of vice and all good stuff.
Crime and gangster stuff.
And it has like a great cast as well. So get fucking Bruce Willis in there in the second story. Great black comedy. It's executed so well by Quentin Tarantino that you're invested so much into just dialogue. It's not even like very important. He drags you into it, and there's some just hilarious moments. We have Samuel L. Jackson, who does one of the best hilarious lines in the movie at the beginning of the movie.
Say what again? I dare you. I double dare you, motherfucker. Say what one more goddamn time.
He's black.
Go on.
He's bald.
Does he look like a bitch?
What?
he look like a bitch? No!
Going back to the dialogue in this movie, is that a lot of the dialogue is stuff that would be cut out of any other film.
Yeah.
It's them talking about the most mundane stuff. Every line is memorable.
Yeah.
Every line.
You know, the whole English motherfucker you speak of, that whole crazy event that happens right there is built up with just like them talking about foot massages and like eating the victim's burgers and like, that's a tasty burger. I think there's this one really great scene though at the end of the second story with Butch, who's Bruce Willis's character, where Marcellus Wallace, who's the crime boss in the movie, he's fucking after Butch because Butch fucked him over for money. They both get abducted. Bruce Willis escapes, and because Marcellus Wallace wants to kill him, he's first just gonna be like, fuck it, I'll leave. But he can hear Marcellus getting raped by the two guys, so he's like, fuck it, I'm not gonna let this happen.
Devi salire, si deve venire.
So number 2 on the list, a lot of people are going to think it should be number 1, is The Godfather. Now, everyone has heard of The Godfather. Of course, it's always heralded as one of like the best movies ever. And of course, it's about the mafia. Now, it's really hard to describe what this movie's about, except that it's a really long, intricate, epic story that has a lot of political stuff going on in it, like mafia politics, and like we need to take care of someone to help someone else to get us more ties and all this stuff. And there's a bunch of great stuff going on, but overall the main tone of the movie is that even though that these guys are pretty much, you know, criminals, mob members, it's all about family values, and you want to see characters like Michael and Sonny succeed at what they do, especially Michael, who ends up becoming our protagonist later in the movie, who is just, wanted nothing to do with the mafia. He was just a, like, returning soldier from the war, didn't want anything to do with the family business, but gets dragged into it, and his story becomes incredibly interesting.
Marlon Brando, he plays Don Vito Corleone. He's a mob boss. He cares a lot about his family. Robert Duvall plays Tom Hagen. He's Vito Corleone's adopted son, and he's basically a brother to all the other sons. He's what's called their consigliere. He's a lawyer, but he's their connection to the world outside of their organized crime operation.
What's interesting is that the movie is setting up, of course, the transition of power from father to son, almost like a business, and it's setting it up for Sonny and maybe even Michael and all this stuff, and their useless fucking retarded son Fredo, who's a little piece of shit. No one likes that guy. What's interesting is Tom Hagen, who's easily the most experienced, maybe even the oldest one of them. He's set up just as like a second in command no matter what. So you'd think, like, realistically, you know, he'd probably be the most qualified as the next Godfather, next Don. Of course, the ending of the movie is absolutely fantastic, where the Corleone family gets vengeance.
Michael Francis Rizzi, do you renounce Satan?
I do renounce him.
Truly incredible movie, but it's not our number 1 pick. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get to number 1, the single greatest movie ever of all time.
ally is the Force. I am altering the deed. Pray I don't alter it any further. What is thy bidding, my master?
Perfect science fiction, it's perfect fantasy, it's perfect drama, it's perfect love story, it's perfect visuals. This is back when there was no CGI and stuff. This one surprisingly works as its own movie. You really don't need to see New Hope to understand what's going on in this one. They still set up the characters again just as well. And this movie, Darth Vader is very much more prevalent as the villain, and they also hint at a villain ahead of him. They introduce more in the next movie as the Emperor, but this is really the movie where Vader and the Empire, as it says, strikes back. This is easily the darkest movie of the trilogy, and it still reigns as the best. It has the most powerful, engaging drama. Carbonite Room, you want to talk about that? I think that maybe is one of the best scenes of the movie.
Yeah, it was an ad lib because in the original plot, or in the original script, it literally was, I love you too. And both, was it Irving Kershner, the director, and Harrison Ford thought that line sucked, so Irving Kershner said, like, do something different. Action.
I love you.
I know. It was build up their love story to the movie. It was very convincing. They fought a lot, especially early on. But they started to show that, like, the more that they were separated, or when, like, Han was in danger, when Leia was in danger, the other one was really, really worried that they'd never see him again. I gotta say, the Boba Fett is definitely better in this movie. He was pretty cool as a minor character in this movie. I think that this is the best John Williams score. It has all of his best things. Well, there was, in the prequels actually had some pretty good score moments as well.
Yeah,
but this one has the best score. Bad guys are coming after them with full force. They were able to destroy a planet-destroying weapon in the last movie. Now they're coming at them with a fucking fleet saying, we're coming after you guys. The rebels are building up their army. They're getting stronger on their snowy planet that's hidden. But the Empire finds them and starts blowing their shit up with, like, walking tanks and awesome shit like that. And then from that point, it's like our heroes kind of split up in different directions, where it explores Han Solo, Leia, Chewbacca, and the robots having to use stealth through an asteroid field to escape the entire Imperial fleet who are chasing them in the Millennium Falcon. But it also explores, like, the love story with Han and Leia during this time, whereas Luke goes to this remote planet known as Dagobah to meet with this weird Muppet named Yoda that kind of seems like an insignificant, annoying creature, but there's a lot more to Yoda. The relationship between Han and Leia is really powerful. The relationship between Luke and Yoda teaching him faith in the Force. We have to talk about why Vader wants Luke, our main protagonist, at the end of the movie, why he wants up the City of the Clouds, why he sets up the trap. There is a huge, huge, huge reveal that happens at the end of the movie that, explains everything. It's the reason why he wants Luke to become evil with him, why he wants to join the dark side, and it was very well kept secret. The original thing is that, he's like trying to tempt him to the dark side, and he said, Obi-Wan never told you about your father. Luke's like, yeah, he told me everything. He told me you killed him. What's funny is what they originally recorded, because they have James Earl Jones do the voiceover for Vader. He doesn't play Vader, he does the voiceover. They had, who's the actor that plays the suit?
Oh, David Prowse.
Yeah, they had David Prowse say...
He's also on Clockwork Orange, by the way.
David Prowse says, Obi-Wan killed your father. And then Luke reacts, like Mark Hamill, who plays Luke, reacts to that reveal. And which is a pretty good plot twist as it was. But then they had, of course, James Earl Jones re-record the line to make it way better and the absolute most classic movie twist ever. Almost everyone knows it. Just for the small chance of someone watching this not knowing the twist of this movie, we will not say it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Next video we're going to do, of course, is that live stream of movies that we didn't put on the list that maybe we should or shouldn't have.